All right, let's jump right into something that sits at the very heart of global economics. We're talking about how developing nations actually grow. We constantly hear about billions of dollars moving across borders every single day. But what is that money actually doing when it lands? To figure that out, we are diving into the deeply insightful research of Oluyomi Oladevid. She spent a ton of time analyzing the true mechanisms of economic development. And honestly, her findings completely challenge the traditional narrative of how foreign capital impacts host nations.
Which brings us to a pretty provocative core question. Are African countries learning at all? So let's dive right into this explainer, covering her crucial research on foreign investment, and we'll explore why the money itself might actually be the absolute least important part of the equation.
To unpack her argument, we're going to take 5 quick steps today. First, the promise of foreign investment. Second, defining a learning economy. Third, 2 modes of learning. Fourth, the reality in Africa. And finally, building domestic capacity. Okay, step 1, the promise of foreign investment. So when multinational corporations enter developing nations, the traditional view is that they're just bringing capital, jobs, maybe some infrastructure. We hear massive numbers, like $2 trillion a year in global foreign direct investment, and we just kind of assume the cash is doing all the heavy lifting. But she looks at this from a completely different angle. As she writes, developing countries can create learning opportunities for themselves through channels of knowledge diffusion and technology transfer. What I absolutely love about this is how she views foreign direct investment, or FDI. It's not just a cash influx, right? It's a critical classroom. Developing countries have this golden opportunity to literally soak up that multinational knowledge. And Mauritius is brilliant here. It's the perfect success story to illustrate her point. They completely transformed their economy by actively stimulating local learning right alongside that foreign capital. They didn't just passively invite foreign companies in and cross their fingers. No, they created special economic zones and pushed for export-oriented FDI. And most importantly, as she points out, they engaged in consciously built learning relationships. Their structural transformation wasn't just some lucky accident. It happened because they treated foreign investment like a targeted masterclass. Moving on to step 2, defining a learning economy. So you might be wondering, how does a country actually replicate that success? Well, she conceptualizes what she calls a learning economy. It's an economic system where the ability to attain new competencies is absolutely essential for the performance of firms, regions, and individuals. Basically, it's not just about making things, it's about constantly learning how to make things better. In her view, gaining new skills is the ultimate driver of structural transformation. It's the whole shebang. But, of course, there's a catch, and it revolves around a concept she relies on heavily: absorptive capacity. Now, I know absorptive capacity kind of sounds like a metric for evaluating paper towels, but let's unpack that jargon for a second. It's the built-in ability of a local firm to actively take in, understand, and actually use new external knowledge. She identifies this as the absolute linchpin. Think about it. Without it, a massive foreign corporation could set up a state-of-the-art factory right next door, and the local firm wouldn't learn a single thing. All right, step 3. 2 modes of learning. Now, what's really fascinating here is her distinction between the specific mechanisms required to make this knowledge transfer happen. On one side, you've got STI, science, technology, and innovation. This is your formal, lab-based research and development stuff. But on the other side, you have DUI, doing, using, and interacting. This is the practical, hands-on, roll-up-your-sleeves learning that happens right on the factory floor. And she argues that to build a true learning economy, you have to exploit both of these modes. To prove just how powerful this combination is, she highlights China and Taiwan as textbook examples of the leapfrog effect. These nations deliberately blended that hands-on DII learning with international trade and foreign direct investment. By consciously linking their daily practical operations with the advanced tech of foreign firms, they built up incredible domestic capacity. They literally leapfrogged older stages of industrial development. It's a real game changer. Which brings us to step 4, the reality in Africa. So let's see how this builds into her reality check on the ground, drawing directly from her own research on Nigerian manufacturing. She juxtaposed findings from a firm-level survey of these manufacturing firms with other African studies, and the data is crystal clear. Linkages between host country firms and foreign firms are absolutely necessary for effective technological learning to transpire. Local firms must have direct connected linkages with these multinationals if they want to level up.
But check out the stark contrast between policy and reality here. Broadly speaking, African development policies claim that frameworks for collaborative learning currently exist, but her research shows the reality on the ground is completely different. Firm-to-firm learning is definitely not automatic. It doesn't just happen organically because two companies share a zip code. Without deliberate effort and that crucial absorptive capacity we talked about, collaborative learning simply doesn't happen.
And that leads us to our final step, building domestic capacity.
So how do we actually fix this disconnect? Well, she lays out 3 really clear policy steps. Number 1, build domestic absorptive capacity. You have to prepare local firms to actually understand the new knowledge. Number 2, specifically target the creation of learning effects from FDI, rather than just cashing the check. And number 3, and this is perhaps her most powerful argument, apply the exact same tenacity used for investment promotion. African governments spend millions of dollars and countless hours trying to attract foreign money. They need to chase the learning effects of that investment with the exact same energy. Which leaves us with this final, provocative thought inspired by her policy brief. What happens if we chase the investment but completely forget to learn? Because as Oluyomi Ola-David's research so clearly shows, capital without capacity is a massive missed opportunity. Real structural transformation only happens when an economy stops just hosting foreign companies and starts actively learning from them. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I highly encourage you to keep questioning the true impact of the numbers we see in global development.